So on this one, we're gonna take this equation, which is 7x squared minus 112, set it equal to 0. And then we want to solve by factoring. And so if I were to graph this thing, it's probably going to cross, I don't know, probably do something like this, like that. Okay, and so we just got to figure out what is, where is this? But we're going to do it through algebra. So I'm looking at 12. I'm looking at 112, and man, I'm curious if that's divisible by 7. So what I've been glossing over that I've been doing in my head is that whenever you get one of these equations, you got to think, is there something I can factor out of the whole thing before I start factoring? What I mean by that is, before we do the AC method and we do that whole complicated process, I got to look at every term and see if there's something I can factor out of every term. In other words, is 112 divisible by 7? 7 is a prime number, so this is the only option I have, and the answer is yes. 7 times 16 equals 112. So what I did was I thought in my head, can I do something like this? Now, when you factor out a 7 from both terms, it's always a good idea to go back and say, if I multiply this by this, well, I get this. Yep, so far, so good. In other words, would 7 times negative 16 equal negative 112? Yep. So now what do I do? Well, I can get rid of the 7. This is kind of a neat trick. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Guess what 0 divided by 7 is? 0. So now I factored out the 7, got rid of it, and now I've got to do this. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when you have something that looks like this is x squared is a square. What, is 16 a perfect square? In other words, is there a number that I can multiply? Yeah, it's 4, right? Well, do you guys remember this pattern? That this is called the difference of squares. So it'd be x minus 4 times x plus 4. And if you don't remember that, the difference of squares works when the middle terms cancel. Whoops. So we could verify that. X plus 4 times x minus 4, and I get x squared plus 4x minus 4x and minus 16. And what happens here, this positive 4x gets canceled by this negative 4x, and that's the pattern, right? So if I were to write out the pattern for the difference of squares, I'll write it down here real small. Difference of squares looks like this. If I have a squared plus b squared, that's equal to a plus b times a minus b. Okay. So now to solve this thing, what I know is that 0 times 0 equals 0. So x minus 4 has to equal 0, and x plus 4 has to equal 0. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides on this one to solve for x. And I get x equals a positive 4. Over here, I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides to get x by itself, and I get x equals negative 4. So that my solutions are x equals 4 and x equals negative 4. How can I verify that? Well, I just plug this in. So I'm going to graph it real quick. I'm going to plug in my calculator, go to y equals, if I click on the right thing eventually, and I'm just going to put in, let me show the screen so you can see it better, 7x squared minus 112. I'm going to go for zoom. I'm just going to do a standard fit because it's between 4 and negative 4. I won't see the whole graph, but I will definitely see where it crosses the y-axis. Remember, standard fit goes from negative 10 to positive 10 on both the x and y-axis. If I hit trace and I enter in negative 4, look where it crosses at 0. If I hit positive 4, look where it crosses, 0. So I got the right answer. Okay. So we're just I'm gonna sketch this out right here. Where does it cross? Well, it crosses at negative 4, comma 0. That's the first solution. And this is positive 4, comma 0. So those two terms are the zeros, or solutions. Now, in terms of solution, what we're really saying is what value of x makes this statement true. Okay, and we found that. If I plug in a negative 4 here, it makes the statement true. If I plug in a positive 4 here, it makes the statement true. And so again, the answer is just 4 and negative 4.